Derek glanced at the clock for the third time in 5 minutes. 9 p.m. Marissa was late again. Lately, it had become a pattern. Late meetings, urgent projects, last-minute client presentations. He stirred his tea absent-mindedly, staring into the darkness outside, replaying the last few months over and over in his mind. His phone vibrated softly. A text. "Derek, I have to stay late again. Big presentation. Don't wait up for dinner." He set the phone down without replying. In the next room, soft music played as Katie worked on her homework. Derek stood up and walked over to his daughter's room. "How's math going?" Katie looked up from her notebook. At 11, she was already the spitting image of her mother. Same deep brown eyes, same dark hair. But in personality, she was all him. Thoughtful, serious, mature beyond her years. "Almost done, Dad? Is Mom working late again?" There was something in her voice. Something strange. Derek sat down at the edge of her bed. "Yeah, big project," he said, pausing. "How was school today?" Katie put her pen down and turned to face him. She hesitated. It was like she was wrestling with herself. "Dad, I need to tell you something. A secret." She took a deep breath. "On my way home from school today, I saw Mom." Derek frowned. "Oh? Maybe she was on a break." "No, Dad." Katie shook her head. "She was at that cafe by the mall, with a man." Derek froze. "Maybe it was a coworker." "No," Katie whispered. "They were sitting really close. He had his arm around her, and the way they looked at each other." Her voice trailed off. Derek felt a cold weight settle in his chest. Something told him this was more than just another late night at the office. Katie didn't finish her sentence. She didn't have to. The world around Derek blurred, as if someone had pulled the focus from reality. Marissa's late nights, her sudden obsession with work. Piece by piece, it all started to fit into a picture he didn't want to see. He placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Katie, thank you for telling me. Get some sleep, okay? You have school in the morning." As he walked down the hallway, his steps slowed. Family photos lined the walls. A summer at the beach 2 years ago. Katie learning to swim, her small hands gripping his as she kicked her legs. Marissa laughing, caught mid-splash as water droplets glittered in the sun. 15 years together. Morning coffee for 2. Weekend trips, plans for the future. Now, it all felt distant, unreal. The next morning, for the first time in 5 years, Derek called his boss and took an unplanned day off. He parked in a quiet lot near Marissa's office, somewhere she wouldn't notice his car. At exactly 1:45, he started scanning the sidewalk. A few minutes later, she stepped out of the glass doors of her office building. Beige suit, heels clicking against the pavement, her dark hair pulled into a sleek bun. But instead of heading toward the subway, she turned right, toward a black BMW idling by the curb. The man behind the wheel looked about her age, maybe a little older. Neatly cut hair, a luxury watch glinting on his wrist. They talked, tilting their heads back in laughter. Then, in what felt like slow motion, Marissa leaned across the center console and kissed him. 10 seconds. Derek's fingers went numb against the steering wheel. The BMW merged into traffic and disappeared. A weight settled in his chest, like sinking too deep underwater. By the time he got home, Katie was already asleep. The front door slammed shut behind him. Seconds later, the sharp click of heels echoed against the hardwood floor. Marissa walked into the kitchen, looking exhausted, but her eyes sparkled, and her cheeks were flushed. "Long day?" Derek asked, keeping his voice steady. Yeah, this project is exhausting. Marissa sighed, slipping off her heels as she walked into the kitchen. Why are you still up? Waiting for you. I wanted to talk. She tensed for a split second, but quickly regained her composure. About what? Your coworker, the one who drives the black BMW. She froze by the fridge. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Derek's voice remained calm. Because I saw everything today, and Katie saw you at the cafe yesterday. Marissa slowly closed the fridge door and turned around. Derek, you're overreacting. Andrew is just a colleague. We're working on an important project. Stop, Derek cut her off. Just stop lying. I saw you kissing him in his car. Her face changed. The mask of an exhausted career woman disappeared, replaced by something colder, something unrecognizable. So what? Her voice was flat, emotionless. Yes, I'm having an affair. I fell in love. It happens, you know. Especially when your husband turns into a piece of furniture. Her words hit like a slap. A piece of furniture? Derek let out a bitter laugh. You mean me? The man who spent the last 15 years providing for this family, taking you on vacations, making sure you had everything you wanted, the one raising Katie while you built your career. That's exactly what I mean, Marissa snapped, her voice sharp with irritation. You've always been so predictable, so responsible. Everything by the book. No risks, no passion. I can't live like that. The next morning, his phone rang. His mother-in-law. Somehow, she had already heard. Derek, honey, Linda's voice dripped with forced sweetness. Don't do anything rash. He clenched his jaw. Marissa told me what happened. Look, these things happen. We're all human. The important thing is keeping the family together. Derek took a slow breath. Linda, if your husband had cheated on you, would you be saying the same thing? Silence. Then a hesitant, well, that's different. Marissa is just going through a midlife crisis. She's confused. You need to be patient and understanding. Derek exhaled and leaned back in his chair. You know what, Linda? Why don't you come over for dinner on Sunday? We'll talk it all over. Sunday dinner turned into an all-out battlefield. Marissa's father, Richard, got straight to the point. Derek, you need to forgive her. Derek set his fork down. Need to? Who exactly do I owe that to? The family. Linda gasped, clutching her hands together. Think about your daughter. A small, quiet voice cut through the tension. Did you think about me? Everyone fell silent. Katie. Her hands were clenched into fists, her face pale but determined. Mom lied to Dad. Is that what you call thinking about your child? Marissa shot up from her chair. Katie, that's enough. You don't understand. No, Katie shouted, standing up as well. You're the one who doesn't understand. You ruined everything. Dad never lied to you. He always took care of us. And you... Her voice broke as she turned and ran from the room. Derek stood up. Well, I think that's the end of this conversation. Derek, wait. Marissa grabbed his arm. Forget all of this. Let's start over. I'll end things with Andrew, I swear. He gently pulled his arm away. You know what's worse than the cheating? How easy it was for you to lie to me, to look me in the eyes and make up stories about late nights at work, to kiss me after coming back from him. Her father spoke up. Son, everyone makes mistakes. Derek exhaled sharply. Yeah, and my mistake was believing that 15 years of marriage actually meant something. A week later, Derek filed for divorce, and that's when the real battle began. Marissa called 20 times a day, 1 minute with threats, the next with desperate apologies. Linda showed up outside his office. Mutual friends tried to convince him to reconcile. Derek ignored them all. Instead, he signed the lease on a 2-bedroom apartment across town, 11th floor overlooking the park. Katie packed her own bags. "I want to live with you, Dad." A new life was beginning. Derek worked. Katie focused on school. In the evenings, they cooked dinner together, talking about their day. On weekends, they strolled through the park, went to the movies, rode bikes. Katie signed up for guitar lessons. First chords, calloused fingers, hours of practice. Derek listened as she played simple melodies, thinking how, at just 11, his daughter was already wiser than most adults. Slowly, they settled into their new life. They met their neighbors. A young couple with toddler twins upstairs. A retired music teacher across the hall. Katie made a new friend on the 2nd floor. They did homework together, whispered about things only preteens understand. New curtains went up. Katie picked them herself. Bookshelves took an entire evening to assemble. Flower pots lined the windowsills. The teacher's idea. Life found a new rhythm. 6 months later, Derek ran into Linda at the grocery store. She looked older, drained. "Derek," she hesitated. "How are you both?" "Is Katie okay?" "We're good, Linda. Katie's doing great. She's even learning guitar." She shifted from foot to foot, bracing herself. Then, in a hushed voice, "You know, Andrew left Marissa." Derek kept placing items into his cart. Turns out, he had a whole family in another city. Wife, 2 kids. He was just having fun. Linda's voice was tight, almost pleading. "Marissa's struggling. She's lost weight, she barely sleeps, she regrets everything. Maybe you could start over? She knows she made a mistake." Derek met her eyes. "Linda, I forgave Marissa a long time ago, but I will never go back." "But why?" There it was, that familiar hint of disapproval in her voice. "Because some things can't be put back together." His voice was calm. "You can forgive, but you can't pretend it never happened." He paused. "Tell Marissa not to worry about Katie. She's just fine." That evening, when he got home, Katie was in the kitchen, singing softly to herself, tinkering with the oven, humming a melody she had learned on her guitar, and, for the first time in a long time, Derek smiled. They sat in the kitchen, sipping tea and nibbling on slightly misshapen but surprisingly delicious homemade pastries. Outside, snow fell softly. On the windowsill, a small potted plant bloomed. Above them, muffled giggles of the twin toddlers echoed from the apartment upstairs. "You know, Dad," Katie stirred her tea thoughtfully. "I'm proud of you." Derek raised an eyebrow. "Oh, yeah? And why's that?" "Because you didn't lie to yourself." She met his gaze. "You didn't pretend things could just be forgotten and forgiven." She set down her spoon. "Grandma says a real man should forgive a woman no matter what. But I think a real man should respect himself and be honest." Derek studied his daughter, realizing just how much she had grown over the past year. At 11, she already knew the difference between real and fake, between truth and a comfortable lie. A year passed. The apartment on the 11th floor had become home, their home, with their own little traditions. Sunday mornings filled with the smell of pancakes, evening tea while Katie played soft guitar chords, late-night movie marathons wrapped in blankets. This was their world now, and in this world they were truly happy.